All right, get some lights. This is definitely a reading I have been very excited to do. All right, it's better. Yeah, no, I was like, when should I do this one? Never done a reading. Um, exact same birthday as me. Like that's just crazy. And it's interesting because we were born on different sides of the world. So you were born really early. So like we're born on the same day, but we were born, pretty far apart in actual time. Because my moon's 21, yours is 7 degrees of Sag. So usually the moon it's around 13 degrees a day. So yeah, I mean it's like pretty much like a day, a little bit, yeah, maybe like a little bit over, maybe like call it 26 hours difference, but yeah, well, it's like a day, yeah, because your sun is 26:59. So like, yeah, mine's 28. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. We have a lot of the same stuff going on, but because we have different ascendants, it flips the order of where everything is. But I was just thinking, I was like, man, if I was getting a reading and the astrologer just happened to be born on the same day as me, like who's gonna know how to explain your experience or your planet, your chart better than someone who's literally it's their job to do it and they've gone in depth with every single part of the chart. Um, so let me. My computer is doing the most annoying thing. Genuinely makes me sad. It's like making these like zoop, like something inside the computer, and it's not like all the time. It's like a really nice computer. I don't know. It's like a zipping sound. Hold on. Okay. Okay. So let's share. All right. So can you stop making the noise, computer, please? Oh yeah, actually, I need to double check this down. Test, 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 test. Okay. All right. So interesting. So for you, it's Ascendant 5, Aries. So we're both fire signs. Yeah, that's right. We talked about that. Yeah, you have a 12th house, I'm 8th house sun. Your Sag moon falls in the 9th, mine in the 5th. It's crazy. I mean, like it's so similar. It's like the 12th house is the house, related to Pisces, very, water, mystical house. 8th house is house Scorpio, and 9th house where your moon is the house linked to Sagittarius, fire, and 5th house where my moon is, you know, in the house of Leo, 5th house. We're probably super similar, but sometimes it's kind of trippy when you meet people. When I've met people born, you know, like, well, I mean, I know some people, not clients, who have the same birthday as me, and I don't know. I've never became like close friends with any of them, so I guess I don't know them so well. But we're definitely different from what I could see. But yeah. Um. All right. Well, Pisces Sun, Sag Moon. What can I say? Um. It is, and yeah, you have the no Earth. I mean, there's not gonna be anything different, right? Yeah, it's just the houses, they're different, but some of the aspects too. Oh, because Venus was. Wait, there's no way. Yeah, okay, that still counts as Venus. Okay, so basically, computer, I'm gonna shake it. It worked. It worked. All right, whatever. So anyways, I'm gonna just ignore this noise. Um, so Pisces Sag life is crazy. Holy shit. You have one side of you that just wants to be left the fuck alone. Just leave me alone. Let me escape into my fantasy world. Let me be a recluse. Let me, misunderstood with the Aquarius energy. And I'm not going to be reading myself right now, by the way, because I know we're different. But I usually don't like to share about like my own personal stuff. But obviously in this reading, it's like, how could I not? Um, but yeah, still there is different ways that the energies manifest. So yeah, so the thing with Pisces Sag is that they're square. It means that your sun and your moon are square by not by degree but by sign. So they're 3 signs away, which means there's tension. The goals of Sagittarius are very different than the goals of Pisces. Now, I know the answers, but it took me years of contemplation to figure it out. But really, really what it is that there's that one Pisces side that's just feels like an alien. And then the thing about Pisces is it's very malleable. It's very like hard to define Pisces energy because it is the last sign, a mix of the first 11. So I always say there's no two Pisces are the same. It's a chameleon energy. But one thing all Pisces do have in common is that they're very sensitive and that they pick up a lot on the energy of other people and of places. So especially yours being in the 12th house, you probably have some really, I've never done it this long. Yeah, so you probably have some like very like amazing spiritual gifts. Um, I mean, I would not be surprised if, your life purpose per se was linked to something that's kind of more in the realm of the esoteric, um, service oriented. I'm gonna keep talking. I have an idea of how to fix this. Yeah, like kind of service oriented. But yeah, so as I was saying, Pisces, yeah, Pisces Sag, it is rough. And what I found that works best is you think of it like you're a being, and there's 2 different mouths that you need to feed, right? So you kind of imagine what these mouths look like, and it's like, all right, like so like how do you make both parts happy? Pisces part, it's more along the lines of, I'll get this fan. I can stand it up. Maybe need more air. Stand. Actually, hold on, you'll lose me for a second. Yeah, so Sag is all about the adventure, right? And as I was kind of saying before, no two Pisces are ever the same. That's why it's really hard to pin down a Pisces. But yeah, they do share that common, like a few common things, and also very very connected sign to music. If you didn't know, Pisces just get it. They get like anything artistic, and they really seek this more elevated reality. And it's because as a Neptunian, the soul is used to being being in these other more magical realms where there's less holding them back, and they come down to earth and everything's all messed up. And a lot of Pisces take like kind of a bad route. Hold on. Okay, I had to get the noise cancellation all the way on because maybe stop hearing this is so distracting. Technology, horrible. But anyways, okay. So yeah, that's kind of like the Neptunian part, right? And the thing that's difficult with the combo is that the Sag moon, it gives you this emotional need for continuously expanding, right? And it's more of an outward expansion. It's about wisdom. So Sag moons, like they can become very unhappy if they follow that Piscean, because it's a fire sign, right? If they follow that Piscean, like the kind of that more introverted Piscean tendency too much, it can be, it can lead to quite a bit of suffering, because on a internal level, Sag moons want to have adventures, and they want to, experience different cultures, different types of philosophies. They don't want to just stay stagnant. Um, Sag moon at their core is very optimistic, and when you combine Pisces Sun with Sag moon, you get someone in, having your ascendant in Aries also, which is very gung ho, like independent, go get it, go getter. Um, when you combine it, you have someone who wants to experience a lot in life, but who also has to really be careful for you know, with people, because they can also with Pisces be very idealistic, and it helps to have these Aquarius placements. It's our secret weapon, because as Pisces, or as Sag moon, Venus and Mars and Aquarius, we kind of have, it can make us make you a bit potentially detached, like when it comes to like relationships. um there is that Venus square Pluto, which is very hard to overcome. And really what it is that um it essentially like can make someone really repeat, like fall really really fast, and um almost create like a really really hectic relationship pattern. Sometimes it can manifest in attracting like very dark partners, and it really is all about self-love, self-acceptance, especially like when you find what you're here to do, and and like your talents, the things that really bring you that satisfaction. um and yeah, you're like a complete like nonconformist. There's no way that, like, you're such an outside the box thinker, that there's no way that just like the everyday stuff that might work for some people, like you're an alien, you know, like it's not going to work for you. And, you know, having sun square moon also, you know, that the mom and dad, what they bring you, the ideas that they kind of one has and the other has, they're very different. So you're here to really blaze your own path, right? So, but what I was saying before with the Aquarius energy and the Venus square Pluto is that, um, is that, you know, relationships can be very turbulent, especially the start of life until a certain um evolutionary point is reached. Hold on, sorry. Okay, yeah. So like I've seen like lots of friends who had that Venus square Pluto, and yeah, it totally makes any and you have past life trauma too, because you remember you have Pluto square the south node, and you know, and Black Lilith and Pluto square the south node. So there there's, you know, and it's in the eighth house, so that really makes someone need to take this deep dive within, you know, and it's very much about ego versus soul. It's the core of shadow work, of inner work. Like that's what um you know, you have to go through. And when you're able to do that, then it's you know, but until you're able to do that, that darkness that could be, you know, potentially it could be repressed, it comes out in relationships, right? And it's totally a projection. um so a lot of people with that don't realize that. um and yeah, they just like get in relationships, and they can, and there can also a lot of times be like a deep fear of abandonment. And it can just a lot of what comes out in relationships, and a great way to kind of be able to tell where one is at um is, you know, based on that, right? Like based on what comes out in relationships. And sorry, 1 second, I accidentally opened the text. Okay. Okay, cool. So yeah, so yeah, it's really crazy actually, because, you know, so like imagine like, you know, like with Venus square Pluto, like Venus is really about self-love, right? And um and you know, it just like projects externally. So if you have love for yourself, you don't need anyone else, right? um and people with Venus square Pluto, like the relationships are very, you know, like early, like until, you know, they a lot of them have like, it's not all the time, but they're usually eh, the abandonment issues, like sometimes it's not, it can be because like you have Pluto square the node. It might not even, it's probably likely that it's not, you know, from this lifetime. And that's what that I wrote a book. You actually should, like, I never tell anyone like read my book, read my book. I barely advertise it. I wrote it a few years ago. It's called Pisces Live 9 Lives. You might love it because you're born the same day as me. Like, I'm just curious. Like, it just makes me wonder, like, because that means we've gone through all the same transits at the exact same time. And I'm just like, maybe you would have like a similar kind of archetypal life story as mine. Who knows? But yeah. What's, yeah. So it's really fascinating about that combo. Is that, so, you know, there can be, so like having past life trauma is really difficult, because you try to attribute your trauma, and you have all these therapists and all this stuff that, you know, help, like, you know, might say, like in my book I talk about how like the biggest thing that I learned from astrology for myself was that the trauma, because because of the Pluto square the nodes, well, it's also it's showing up in this lifetime also, but it's really mimicking the deepest past life trauma that you have. And it could be bad. It could really be like it could be really, really hard to trust people when you have that. And especially being a Pisces, like, you can just imagine yourself in situations where you gave someone the benefit of the doubt and it didn't go your way, betrayal, it's just so it just makes it so um I feel like the Aquarius, right? So it's like in a relationship, um it's almost like you really need this like you need to have like a certain depth, right? So like to be able to like have like depth with someone and solidity, right? Because you don't have any earth in your chart. So it doesn't necessarily mean you need to have someone with like, earth. Like my girlfriend has no earth, neither of us do, but the composite chart has earth, right? It's like the combined chart. But it's just really important for you to because you have North Node Venus also. So a lot of your relationship, like your love life, will be very faded and in a good way, you know. So it when you have North Node and Venus, it has like beneficial karmic love relationships, you could say. Um, you kind of get lucky when it comes to that, but like early on, it's like the lessons have to be learned. So you know the whole thing is that it can be really ugly, and if someone has like fear of abandonment, fear, any kinds of unresolved dark, Pluto, like your own personal underworld, yeah, it comes out in the relationship. And there can be like the lower energy of Pluto Scorpio, right, which can be like manipulation, power struggles, jealousy, intense paranoia, like so many things like that can come up. So once enough work is done, then the real kind of a like type of relationship that works for someone with a chart like this, as I said, you know, you're a rare blend of very, having a very introverted side and then having a very active side. So, being with someone let's say is like really boring. I don't know. Being with someone who's like very, who meets like just the Pisces side, it's just important, you know, to have a level of kind of space and freedom, right? Because Venus and Mars and Aquarius in love, like you might be someone that prefers your friends to your partner, or like maybe who values like a lot of like very Aquarian people value their friendships more than their romantic relationships. And especially since it's in the 11th house, all that stuff, like you're meant to really be a part of, different karmic groups, right? That help you kind of that really, really relate to like this individualized self, right? That's what Aquarius is. It's the individualized self, the authentic self. So, um, yeah, like relationships as a Sag moon too, they really, like Mars and Aquarius, like they need both of those. They need a ton of freedom, right? And you have, your moon is sextiling your Venus and your Mars, right? So, yeah, those two energies really really get along, and they both require a ton of freedom. And when things so it's just kind of interesting, right? Because it's like the Venus square Pluto can make someone come off as like just throwing way too much, like at the start, just like really really like being very intense and maybe coming off like they're clingy, but then within relationship, then and when settled, it's actually very like hard for people with Venus and Aquarius to have like this like honestly like it's more of like a cool attitude, like, and that you really want to be friends with your partner, be able to have like intellect, like sometimes like someone who's willing to learn from you, because you're a natural teacher as a Sag moon. You know, shared philosophies, obviously. But really, like, it's about space and freedom. The second someone tries to tell you, like, do this, do that, be like this, be like that, like, I just can't imagine that works for you at all. Another thing that can happen with that energy is that, you know, the grass is green on the other side type thing can come up in lots of areas of life, right? Because like Sag moon, one of the, you know, it's my favorite moon sign, and I'm not just saying that because that's my moon sign. A lot of my friends are Sag moons, and there's just this like internal optimism and this real positivity and just, you know, anything is possible type energy that you don't get around everyone. But sometimes it can be overly expansive, and you know, yeah, you have what I have, Sun and Mercury square Jupiter, so you know, you have a lot of Jupiter energy, and the idea of over expansiveness, to me represents the idea of Superman or Superwoman syndrome, right? Like being able to like so in one sense it could be like promising too much, taking too big of risk, like the person who walks in the casino and automatically thinks they're gonna win, and then oof, right? So you know, it's just really, really good to be grounded and to have, you know, daily routine, or, you know, some kind of like some, you know, different things in your life that give you a sense of being rooted. Um, and I think family, like it's interesting because you have Chiron and Jupiter on the IC. So like, you know, speaking of like the childhood, like Chiron on the IC speaks of pain from the childhood, feeling misunderstood, you know, in Cancer especially, right? In the family, but then Jupiter is kind of like a very different, like way very positive one, right? Where it's like more about, you know, like people who have just Jupiter on the IC, they usually have like very, very positive childhood. So like both can exist to where it could have been very expansive, you know, lots of opportunities, lots of growth, but then maybe some pain as well, right? Like there can be like intense love, but you know, as because you're an alien, maybe feeling misunderstood is a possibility, right? So misunderstanding your own family. And when you have like this Aquarius energy, you know, you're such an outside the box thinker, and your moon's in the ninth house. So like you're really like, you know, you are really, really spending a lot of time with your philosophies and with your worldview is always changing. And that's a very important thing for a Sag moon, is to never accept that what you know is enough. It's never the end. Never the end. But yeah, like Sag moon spends a lot of energy, a lot of time finding that the truest, like the highest level of truth that they can find. So when they arrive at that, sometimes they want to impose it on other people. So like that's like one of the lessons that Sag moons learn, is that you know, it's frustrating when you have all this amazing information and wisdom that you've learned, and intuitively you get it, right? It makes sense to you, all these things, like why they're real, like you just kind of know, right? But and then you're blown away. um you're blown away that other people don't see it like you. It's mind blowing. You're like, this is so fucking obvious, right? But not everyone is free. Very few people are free, like are truly free in their minds. And with a chart like yours, I think that, you know, the potential for you to have escaped kind of like conforming and kind of the group the what's it called? Like the group think, like the kind of like consensus reality, right? Like thinking like everyone else thinks. Like the odds are that you're, with the Mars in Aquarius, Venus in Aquarius, Northern Aquarius, like that you probably, and if you didn't, that's what would work best for you is having friends who, groups of friends, people like, groups, associations, whatever it is, right? That really are good at promoting the idea of being an individual, right? Of being an authentic person, right? They don't, not caring about what other, how they look to other people. And it could be through these types of associates, through these types of people that you learn a lot, right? And that you really, really grow. And because it's on the 11th, I imagine that karmic friends is a part of your path. And it could even just be, humanitarianism. And as a 12th house sun, that could really make service a big part of your life. So yeah, it's interesting because most healers, I was talking to a friend the other day, and like, he's a psychologist. I was like, have you ever met someone who's, who's some type of healer who didn't have like a kind of, something kind of fucked up early on, right? So, the Jupiter and Chiron, it could be like that Jupiter and that Sag moon, just it definitely gives like an internal well of optimism inside you, even during tough times, to be able to keep a higher perspective, right? So yeah, that could be kind of how that comes together. But yeah, there's just a lot. There's just a lot, right? Because um karmically, South Node in Leo, North Node in Aquarius, moving away from Leo in the fifth house is like from a past like tendency of potentially being, you know, not necessarily egotistical, but like more about the self, where maybe like you were like had like lots of success, creative success, you know, fame, who knows, right? High kind of positions. It's tough. Like just I feel like sometimes South Node Leo people like enter this life, like, for okay, I'll give you me for example, right? Like I have what, like 30,000 followers, around that. Like to me, like to some people, like, and I'm being dead serious, like I do not feel like I feel like that's nothing. Like and it's not me like being like Mr. Modest or whatever. Like to me, that's literally like nothing, because I know in my soul in past lives I've been, like, massive, right? And it's something that's been confirmed by, or told to me actually. I never, yeah, by a few psychics that I've trusted in the years. But like that's kind of like what it is for a lot of Leo South nodes, is that they're trying to go away from the me to the we. And when you're kind of like used to being special and to getting all this praise, sometimes it's difficult when you're in this lifetime, and some people just don't get you, right? um but it's a gift and a curse to have this ability, because you're trying to move towards Aquarius, which is, being outside the box, right? It's not following rules, it's being rebellious, it's being your own person. So it's really important to understand that sometimes anything that's rooted in ego in this life can easily be, the universe can like push it back, right? um because as a North Node Aquarius, you're really here to help the world, and to take your talents, like, and contribute them to society to the world in a way that helps, raise society. It's like, it's like, and it's sort of a sacrifice in a sense, right? It's like, imagine the person who could be super, super famous if they, let's say, I don't know, if they were doing like, I don't know, some kind of more like streaming, I don't fucking know, right? Or like some kind of like more popular but less, I don't know, fashion stuff. Nothing, nothing against fashion. Fashion's cool for people who are into it. I'm just trying to think of examples, right? Compared to something that has like a higher metaphysical value, but not as maybe, not changing like people's lives, right? So there is, but the universe will open those connections, and it could, be very, it wouldn't be surprising if, you even, I don't know if you're married or not, but if you were to meet someone that is where you guys really bond over shared causes, um, and like kind of a shared vision, shared kind of goals around how you want to see the world and what you want to do. But if I can tell you one thing, you know, um, that I have like my whole theory called the Aquarian relationship, and um, I really, really believe that certain people need to not, they need to really, really look at the idea of like what a relationship is and see how like the traditional relationship, and there needs to be an alternative, and there's different stuff out there, but for me, um and several of my followers and friends, and when I've talked about this, a lot of people really relate, and I think you having such a similar chart as mine, it might also be the case where when you're someone who has Venus and Mars and Aquarius in love, you don't like to feel like you're completely losing yourself, right? But then, like I said, you do like to have the ability to go deep when you need to, or feel like the undercurrent has this depth and this loyalty. But it's almost like you need it, like you benefit from time alone. You're a 12th house sun, right? So if someone is always in your energy, you're in the composite chart of you and that person. You're not in your natal chart. There's a new chart that forms when you're with someone. So um having like, lots of space for yourself is really, really something that's life changing. Um because like as a 12th house sun, it's really like in the meditation, in the dream realms, like the imagination, like when you're and this kind of comes back to the idea of this fire, this your Pisces side needing to have to also get it, because like there's the fire side, and Aquarius, it's very social too. Sag is very social. Hey, Mika, I'm sure you love cats. Oh, who knows? Mika, show your face. Okay, come on, come on, Mika. So yeah, so I just think that like when someone, so it's like a lot, and I've had people with charts very similar to ours, right? And often, it's like the idea of like I was saying before, grass is green on the other side, of wanting a lot of alone time, of a lot of space, and not wanting to be demonized for it, not wanting to feel like, oh, I'm bad, or like I'm, not fulfilling someone else's needs because I enjoy being in my own energy, right? So that's kind of like in the essence of the type of person I think works for someone with, Venus and Mars and Aquarius and Sag Moon, is someone, especially in the Aries rising, it's someone who has their own life. It's someone who's very independent, who doesn't necessarily need someone else to give the codependency is probably like, not something I would imagine, because you probably are someone who can keep yourself entertained. Um, and yeah, 12th house sun, like I said, you have like a deep karma to fulfill in this lifetime. And you take in with the Mercury there too, you take in a fuck ton of the energy around you. Yeah, just complete sponge for the energy. And also like understand the zeitgeist and understanding the like the collective unconscious and where it's at, you're on top of it. So you know, it really makes like who you choose to be around you, where you choose to live, you know, that's so important. Friend groups, all that stuff, work, like all those things, like every little detail, because like with Mercury in the 12th, you can be like a complete channel, right? Like you can really be, and you have Vesta there too, so you might really be someone who thrives working in these unconscious realms and helping people heal themselves spiritually, in whatever way that is. But like a lot of 12th house sun people, they prefer to be behind the scenes, but then all that fire, it doesn't, right? So I keep going back to this idea of like, if you give the fire, if you give too much fire, then it's going to go around and might make connections with people that, you know, that Pisces empath side picks up on their energy, you know. So it's like really like, and with the squares of Jupiter, it does require someone to really be careful about how they move, right? So me, you know, having had lots of different phases in my life, I've definitely had times where I've attracted people when I was in my very fiery side that um you know, like weren't necessarily good for me. And what can be difficult too, being like having your Pisces sign in the 12th house, it's so hidden. So it's very likely that this sensitive side isn't understood so well or seen so well. You know, the Aries rising, it makes you come off in the very like, you know, fiery, assertive warrior kind of go-getter, entrepreneur, leader. You know, that's what you have, right? So people see that and they expect that you're like that all the time. But really, you know, like Pisces and placements sometimes lack boundaries. And sometimes, so it's like if you're like, that's one of the most important things in your life, right? Is these boundaries that you're able to create, because with the 12th house sun, you can really feel like the stakes are so much higher for you than for other people, like with who you surround yourself with and where you live. Living close to water can be very nice, but um, you know, also just like I think a Pisces does best. I know you're in Brisbane. Um, well, I guess that maybe be more water moons. I think a Pisces can kind of just like adapt, but you know, it does the idea of like rain or some form of water, you know, I think is really, really appealing to Pisces energy, seasons. But like I said, Pisces can, you know, can adapt. But that's the thing, right? It's like I always say, like for you know, for Pisces, it's like you can either be like a solid rock and the wind hits you and you know, you're immovable, or you can be like a little gravel, you know, that each little time, you know, the wind moves, you get pushed around. And it's sometimes hard for on an energetic level for Pisces to block out those energies. And with the Mercury, it's about the thoughts. So, like if you're around someone who's negative, you might, without knowing it, take on their negative thoughts um and stuff like that. But like Mercury in Pisces is like the highly intuitive, highly imaginative placement, and it really is that like, you know, crossing between this side and the other side, like being able to like tune in other people's thoughts. But yeah, there can be the idea of like reality and fantasy. How you distinguish between reality and fantasy, right? So also another thing about Pisces where they have to really, really be like nice to them. They have to really have a high level of self-compassion because I mean, I don't know any Pisces. Like I know for me, I dis to the fuck peer. Um, I have periods where I don't want to, and it's great, you know, being on social media, and that's like Like it's the reason why I don't I do like I mean I think either way, like the way I do my readings is the best because I can choose when I'm feeling intuitive and when I'm feeling really like let's go. I mean, I can't just wake up and be like, okay, I can do a reading right now. It's like not easy what I'm doing, you know? Of everything aligned. But that's like kind of comes from like the lack of earth, right? But there's gifts that come with the energy, but there are times where you have to give yourself that self-compassion and allow yourself. And that's why like for a 12th house sun, um, sometimes like yeah, there'll be times where you just like don't want to be around anyone. And if you're around people who shame you for that and who try to kind of gaslight you or, you know, just tell you like, oh, you're too sensitive or it's all in your head or whatever. Like, no, like that's them projecting their experience onto you. Um, a huge, huge, huge thing, rule of thumb, create boundaries with people who like when you in your mind have the feeling that anything is possible for you in this reality. Anyone that doubts you, even if it's something unconscious that you feel, right? That's subtle. Because you see the undertones, right? You can feel the undertones, right? Um, like trust that and go with that, Like and don't engage with those people. I mean, if they're in your family, what the fuck can you do? That's a tough one, right? When they're in your family. But in Placidus, your Jupiter would be in the third house, so that usually it would indicate good if you have siblings relationships. But you know, who knows? Who knows? It's also really, really good for being a very good communicator. But it's really important, with the combust conjunction of your sun and your Mercury, to not overly identify with your thoughts and to watch out for any dogmatism. Like I was talking about before, right? Where like you spending so much time gaining, creating that life guiding philosophy, worldview, and just realizing you can take the horse to the water, but you can't force the horse to drink it or whatever. So yeah, and we learn that as Sagittarians, right? We learn that, and then but then the question is like once like yeah, it's like are you gonna become like then like when you get rejected, even though you're right, it's important to not allow others to sort of dictate or to kind of like start to get in your head and make you start to doubt your own reality, right? That's why the alone time is needed, the periods of isolation, because there's just so much stimuli. And I think something like writing, right? Some kind of creative expression would be very, very amazing for you because it kind of just keeps everything in order. And, with the Neptune placements, like if you're ever, just filming yourself, Neptune rules cameras. So literally just filming yourself can be one of the most energetically healing things. Like just talk, like not yet. You don't have to show anyone, right? Just doing like a therapy session or a vlog, where you're talking to an audience, right? But you're really just kind of talking, right? So yeah, I think when it goes to career, like I said, and anything in the healing in that's healing and it's artistic, but like I just think that when there's no earth, it can make it difficult on a day-to-day basis to wake up and to feel like, all right, I can be the same person. Like I really for or head cases, Pisces, right? Now Aries rising is that boss energy, but I think like entrepreneurship and but you do have, you have Uranus on your midheaven. So, that would make you really want to like that's very humanitarian, but also like probably like quite unconventional kind of career that's very like linked to your individual like your authentic individual growth in terms of your individualism, right? Um, yeah, I mean, it's also possible. I mean, that's like an astrologer. Uranus rules astrology, but like it's really really wanting to stand for something and kind of following that. Um, so a lot of times the 12th house sun, there's difficulty with the father. Um, a lot of times like the father was not that present, or the person missed out on having like a close relationship with them, or the father was weak influence. It's tough to tell. Sometimes the father, just wasn't, for whatever reason, wasn't a part of the picture. Um, so it really does come down to those moments of quiet reflection, um, and that heals, and just feeling everything, because Pisces sometimes wants to escape, and it can live too much in a fantasy world, and it can get a little bit, obviously, you're blessed to have the fire because it makes you make the moves, but um yeah, sometimes Pisces can, like, like self being the self victim and kind of give up on themselves. And sometimes it's sad because sometimes it's like right before all the blessings are coming, so it's sometimes better to just try, like, really, really, as hard as it is to have with no earth, to have a solid routine, to really figure out like what really doesn't work for you, and just do your best, you know just do your best. Like, for me, I'm giving examples, like drinking alcohol. I used to drink a good amount, but it just stopped really having like a good effect. Like, I mean, so I only drink like a few times a year for like big, like, actually next week, music festival here in Romania. But like it's rare, a few times a year, usually only at like electronic music, like festivals or shows. Um, so like it's just really important to not follow conditioning. And I think a 12th house sun is so connected to the psychic world, and it just, to get there though, there's a level of like, kind of like Star Wars, Yoda training time, where you kind of have to disappear and align yourself with other people with similar goals, and learn, and find the right teachers, and yeah, because there's an emotional need for you to, like, also, like you might be someone who's happier living in a different culture, or just really, really, like, having friends from tons of different cultures. Like, most Sagittarians I know, like, they literally, like, I love it. Like, they can just look at maps, like Google Maps, for hours, and just like I always used to wonder as a kid, like, like, what's life like? I still do, actually. Like, what is life like? Like, just the everyday little small sensitive things that only Pisces can really notice. What is life like? Like, other signs can notice it, but like, Pisces are very good at noticing small things. Like, what's life like for a person in Zimbabwe, or you know, Serbia, or Ukraine, you know, Guatemala, Ecuador. I don't know. So just being able to, find activities that kind of lift you above the mundane world. Um, so the imagination, like, you could be, like I said, amazing writer, and like someone who actually like writes for a living, or just does, or something artistic. It's really infinite for you. I think the more freedom that you have in your career, like, see what I do, for example, right? Because like you have Uranus on your midheaven, so you need, but it's in Capricorn. So like you need, like, you want to be successful and you want to give something back to society, but it needs to kind of be on your timing. and similar to what I have. So I'll explain. It's like, you know, I have my readings, and I'm an astrologer, but I taught myself everything, and I do things when I want to do them. You know, I don't have any boss. I've worked in like sales jobs and stuff like that where I've had bosses, and it fucking sucked for me. Like I just could not, like I the last personality type, and you're like me. You know, you have I'm Leo rising, you're Aries rising, so it's just very hard because you like for you to work best, like you're ultra creative. Like this is a 10 out of 10 creativity chart, right? Mars and Aquarius is like genius energy too, you know. Very abstract minded, but the ability to be logical also, but like way more on the right brain, like artistic side, visionary kind of. But in order to be a visionary, you can't be trapped. You have to be able to be on your own. You have to be able to be free. So that's why I'm telling you about this, like how important it is to have your life. Like, okay, I always metaphorically, I know you're loving this stuff as a Sag, like the metaphors, Sag Moon, Pisces. Like I always say, like, you know, we're meant, like, I think like success, if you ask me what's the success, I think it is defined by how much as an artist of your own reality, you can create your own reality to mimic your dream, your authentic dream. That is not the dream of someone else, right? That's really your dream. And of course, this can change over time, right? So, you know, it involves taking risks. You know, that's the way it is. Life is risky. Um, you know, I'm only in the position I'm in right now, which isn't perfect, but I made a lot of very, very, very like big risks, but this is what it comes down to. God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, a Pisces Sag has this, like I don't know, like, you know, Einstein was a Pisces Sag. Like I know every Pisces Sag I know is a fucking dreamer, and they have this amazing trust in the divine, and they they can't do like they like oh, man, like yeah, I mean I just love them. But I mean it's obvious I'm gonna love them, but like that connection to the divine and to God during tough times, like, you know, I think every Pisces Sag should have a period in their life where they just meditate like fucking crazy, you know. um I know I did, and now I don't have to meditate that much because that stuff's cumulative, and it's about, for you, it's about refining, if you haven't already, your past life gifts, um, and then applying them to help others or to your individual mission. But yeah, I think like kind of what I was saying about working right with the Uranus on the midheaven, that um like it might, okay, so I was gonna tell you like I didn't know I was gonna work today, you know. I chilled, I woke up, I kind of just chilled, and then I naturally just flowed into some work. And it would be very easy because I understand the conditioning, right? Um, of like how when you're brought up in a Western society, the idea of like do, you know, like people in the US where I grew up, I always said unfortunately, but now I don't regret it. I'm just not the biggest fan of living there. Visiting maybe once a year or 2 years. I mean, if my mom and brother didn't live there, I probably would go. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what if I would go at all. Probably not. I wouldn't. But you know, that's contagious, and it really is. A Pisces is good at going with the flow and shifting and being able to like, you know, just go like change when it has to in different environments. But that mentality is can kill. It's so bad for Pisces. Um, and you're all about freedom. Like you should get a big tattoo. I'm joking, but no, freedom is everything. So what I was saying is like those careers when I had them, like and like even now, like I still have to like set but when you don't have Earth in your chart like us, right? You have to push yourself. Like people who have a lot of Earth, it's easy for them let's say if they're an astrologer like me, instead of doing these types of recordings, they could just say, okay, 9 p.m. August 15th, we'll meet on Zoom at 8 o'clock and we'll do our reading from 8 to 9:15 or 9:30 or whatever, right? I could never fucking do that. I would end up canceling like so many. It would be ridiculous. Be a mess. I mean, I never say never. Maybe I'll be able to do that one day. And that's another thing is never limit yourself. Like that's another great thing about Pisces Sag. Like self-limiting beliefs are deadly. So like I take that back. Let's just say I don't like the idea of that isn't attractive to me. The idea that's attractive, and this goes back to Uranus on the midheaven that you have, is freedom. It's tantamount in your life, right? And also, so like what I was saying is Uranus, for me it's in the sixth, so like I always need to feel like there's like even if every day, even if it's like going to bed, like tonight it's already fucking 2:20 a.m. So like realistically I'll probably do 3 readings. I might play like a video game like after this to kind of chill for a little bit. I don't really play many these days. Just basketball video games. Um, but like I could go to bed at 8 a.m., which isn't normal. Like last time I went to bed at probably 5. But like the point is that you grew up in a society where people tell you live like this, live like this, live like that, live like this. And if it works for you, works for you. Like I only eat once a day. And I do not have any like the only time I eat twice is if like tonight, let's say I ate at 9:30 or 9 or whatever. If I work till 8 a.m., I'm gonna get hungry. And then go to sleep. But like, yeah. So it's like things like that like you really look at all the societal rules and you question everything because it's just not gonna work for you, most likely. So with Uranus on your midheaven, like and kind of comparing it to what I'm saying about like my work, like the only time I'm able to really tap into that, like kind of the idea of the artist for me, right? Like I moved to Romania because I traveled intuitively, my mind was open, right? I wasn't stuck in this script of like, oh, it's supposed to be like this, it's supposed to be like that. Fuck that. No. I came here, I fell in love like with right away. I was like, I'm gonna move here. So it's the intuition. And I've been right, 1,000% correct. Um, but if I believed in like the propaganda of the US is the best, and if I stayed locked into that, like I would still be in America, you know, even if I'm suffering and don't like it there, and I don't, I mean, like I had a great life. I'm not saying like I left America having like as good of a life as you can have in America, right? I still left. So yeah, I mean the point is that Uranus on midheaven, you feel like you're here for a special reason. Like you might even not want kids, maybe you will, but like some people like this much of like a pat, like they're really, I mean, and it could be through parenting also, right? But it's this very unique contribution. So sometimes it does come, through, through work or through your role as a parent, right? Um, a lot of times so you probably have a very good relationship with your mother because you have moon trine north trine like trine sextile nodes, and Uranus on the midheaven. Maybe your mom was like a very independent, strong-minded kind of person, um, and maybe embedded you with like some very valuable lessons that you can kind of use in your life. But yeah, you need to have like this freedom to express like your unique abilities in your public life in the way that you contribute to society. And if we're boxed into someone else's ideas and thoughts, it's very hard. Now, also you have Saturn in that 10th house. And also you would rebel, you'd rebel against anything like that. So you have to be like I guess, the master of your own destiny. Um, yeah, because like anyone else's like rules or assertions, like you're gonna rebel, most likely want to rebel against it. And the fact that you have Neptune and Saturn also there. So Saturn in 10th is like exactly where you want Saturn. It just makes someone, well, first 30 years can be a little bit, there can be a little bit of fear of like public failure. and like more of a cautious approach, but like it is a very hardworking approach to life. You know, Saturn Capricorn. So you have that organization, right? The ability to stay organized, and it does kind of help this our type of Pisces to have Saturn in Earth, right, in Capricorn, in its dignity placement. So our generation, people born in like like the kind of 3 year period of I guess it would be like what, like 88, 89, 90. Um, really, really, really like strong workers, you know? So things after Saturn return in career, I would guess, or like kind of like life purpose, like maybe there's some early setbacks, but it pushes you to become very hardworking and very responsible, very respected in whatever you're doing, right? Um, so then with Neptune there, that makes you really want to express like compassion and people who have Uranus and Neptune in 10th house, most of them I've met, they do something that is linked to healing in some way. And they want to be they really want to be of service through their profession. And sometimes there is that sacrifice I was talking about, that sacrifice of like giving up something that's more ego, or like the example I gave of like the influencer versus like the person that helps people. Sometimes that happens, right? And there's sometimes people with that, they feel like they have to like it's almost like they're destined with the 12th house sun, destined. They've like angels who've come here to be of service, right? So aside from like the potential of being misunderstood from parents, Black Moon Lilith in with Pluto, we both had that. Like you don't want to get on your darks on your wrong side. Of course, you're a very positive person, but like Black Moon Lilith, with Pluto is like it's a witch energy. It's a big witch, like very like mystical placement, but also it can bring out the worst sides of Scorpio. If someone fucks with you, just being able to like know exactly what to say to destroy someone, and yeah. So, and then the thing also about being Mars and Aquarius is that like Mars and Aquarius, they get their way. They like if they really want to, they can be. I don't consider it a manipulative Mars sign, but like when they want to be, they can be very sneaky and very like good at. I'm not saying this about me. I'm just saying like what I know about this placement. They can, like if someone's like a Mars and Aries, which is like the dignity placement, you're being dominated by them. But Mars and Aquarius can dominate someone, and that person doesn't even know they're being dominated, and they just are. So yeah, Black Moon in Scorpio, it's just like the idea of power, and how if you're in a lower vibration, you know, potentially there can be like this real like desire to just like have power, and um dominate others. That's kind of how I see that one. But it all relates to the inner work that eighth house Pluto asks, right? Um, and Pluto in the eighth, it's like, all these very, this experience of like these very like powerful, deep unconscious drives and passions that are hard to recognize. So it makes someone want to really probe deep into like the metaphysical subjects, psychology. Also, it makes someone really, really want to. So like it goes back to this whole romantic thing too. There's this deep, kind of like ability to really be connect deep with someone. But like sometimes Pisces, it can, even though it's a very emotional sign or a very, very sensitive, very emotional, sometimes like it gets like vulnerability hangovers where it's like too much. But I've seen that more for Pisces men than women, to be honest. Um, so yeah. Mm-mm. Yeah, Juno's in Scorpio, so that speaks more onto your kind of like perfect mate, eighth house. Like I've already kind of like talked about that, like how yes, they need to be able to give you freedom, they need to be able to allow you to be your individual self. You need to be able to communicate with them, in your own, speak your language without having to repress and have alone time and not have to like have it be a big deal. But then, that speaks to that deep loyalty part, and how, like, Venus is what you love. So you're attracted to Aquarius energy. You're attracted to like this, um it's almost like, you know, you I don't want to comment on this because, but like, like Aquarius, if you have Venus in Aquarius, you're attracted to Aquarius energy, which is, it can be detached. So like in relationships, it's like it can be an advantage when you have all this Pisces energy, this Pisces energy, which can, like I said, be idealistic and cling on and take on other people's energy too much. But when you have the Aquarius, it can make you just like not really give a fuck. And sometimes that's not bad. Sometimes it's not bad. And your Mars and Aquarius also sextiles the ascendant. So, you definitely are very, very, I think you'd be very, very assertive and very good at getting your way with stuff. Which, like if you're like someone who's like a leader for a certain cause, like I definitely see a chart like this really, and also just like having different periods of your life where you have different worldviews, and your worldview, like, it goes through transformations, and those transformations go towards, transformations in terms of your career. Because, with the part of fortune in the ninth in Sag, um, that's kind of like your best, your flow state. It's when you're, through the discovery of truth, right? Um, and it's like the more that you sort of get with, the more that you expand yourself in that way, um, the better, right? And it's also really linked to being aware of, I guess, or not even being aware, just like the idea of having one foot in the spiritual realm, one foot in the brain fart. One foot in the spiritual, one foot in the material, right? And, you know, it's just like, about living to the fullest. And just it just my camera. Yeah, it just speaks to like, um how much, like joy equals, or freedom equals joy, you know? Freedom equals joy, new learning equals joy, changes equals joy. So as I was saying before, that's what gets tricky. How So let's say you're too far in the stage. You're not getting enough alone time. You're feeling like you're losing your fucking self. You're going crazy. Um, maybe your body. I don't say your body's deteriorating, but like, maybe you're not. Maybe like you're not getting enough sleep, or like because like you're without Earth, you're very sensitive to like little changes. Like, um, maybe it's not so easy to like fall asleep. These are just little things, right? Like this, like for example, like when I party, right? This random example. Um, a lot of people can just like wake up, or like, you know party hard, then go to sleep. Like for me, it's like a fucking nightmare. Like I just cannot sleep. I just like feel absolutely horrible. It takes me like, I don't know. It just sucks. And it's little things like that, right? Or like when I sleep, just in general, if like a small noise happens, like it just wakes me up and I just can't fall back asleep for so long. It used to be way worse. But that's the thing, is that like you have to really, really understand, like, okay, I'm this way. Like, what do I need to do? Like what are the small things that I need to change? Um, sorry, one second. Yeah, so sorry, Mika. You got mad at me. Animals are so healing for Pisces, like, and just like your home base, your home base just has to be like, it's just like, it's so important that it's so nurturing for you. I'll be right back. I'm gonna like run to the bathroom really quick. I could actually just pause this. I'm gonna think for a second. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, returned. Okay. Oh, never mind. Yeah, Leo rising. Yeah, so yeah, just like really, really watching out and not like when like having mindfulness is one of the most important things. Being present, right? Because like the idea of a Sag moon is that we can be too future oriented, and Pisces can be too like in the fucking clouds, right? So imagine you're in the either in the future or in the clouds. So having mindfulness, gratitude, because like you're very good at like finding perspective. So just like coming back to that talent is very valuable. So I definitely think that it is probably through like some difficult experiences that a lot of your you find a lot of your growth. But you have this this real like world changer energy that's very like not with like the old traditions, and you're someone that will speak out against injustice, but sometimes there can be, like I said, like the Pisces, like you know it's just about not giving up, and continuing through. And because like patience can be hard, right? With especially with Aries, right? It can be, very good at starting things, but finishing when you don't have Earth, the follow through, the continuity, and that's why you need a career and a life purpose that has variety, that's interesting, that really captivates you. And Uranus doesn't always get figured out right away. Sometimes it's a real trial and error, right? But when you have fire like you do, you can take something and just say, "Fuck it, I'm gonna start. Like I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna do this." Boom. There's people who cannot fucking make decisions to save their life, right? They just can't start anything. They might have good follow through, but the problem is they don't start shit. So for you, it's like it's really about like like I said, even if it's weird, figuring out what works for you. Um, having Virgo ruling your sixth is the Aries rising, obviously is very good, but still, not being perfectionist with your daily routine. But like for example, what foods work best for you? How often should you eat? What time does your brain, like when does your brain work the best, right? And just like the more freedom you can have in your life, the happier you're gonna be. And sometimes that requires risks, and you definitely have the gift of this outside the box thinking. And they say in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And it's very true today. um we live in a world where people, we like, just even understanding astrology, like, and using it to your advantage puts you in like the you know just like above 99% of people, right? I just got teary. It's so beautiful. No, I'm joking. Um, so yeah, that's important. And then also you have like a really strong Pallas in Aries. So that's very good for intellect, coming up with like new ideas. And someone who's willing to risk putting these new ideas into action. So let me see something really quick actually. I think also like with your chart and Black Lilith in Scorpio, it's just like making sure that you're not like, and of course as a Pisces, you'll be very, you'll be very, very like sensitive to these things, but um, just making sure you're not dominating other people too much. Um, but yeah, with Palace and Aries, it's like that person when there's a problem, they just go head first into it. It's like, no, let's deal with it right now, right? And a lot of times, Palace and Aries are geniuses, like they're like competitive with their own mind. So and also like, and this is so true for me because I'm this too. Physical activity, especially for a Sag moon, right? Like my mind is on another level of what it usually is when I'm running, right? Or when I'm doing like sports, but especially running because that's the music and zone out. And so whatever it is for you that helps you enter these like flow states, but like sports especially can literally like be the best thing for your wisdom and sparking the kind of creative juices. Um, Also like Palace Aries, like they like to kind of like do things that challenge their intellect, like learning new languages, learning something that's difficult, right? But yeah, and also just very sometimes intellectually they can come off a bit arrogant. Um, Also it's another place in yours that hates being led by others. Um, yeah, it does not work. So it's good. It's very good for being a boss and being independent. Um, but yeah. So, but like another thing also is that sometimes people like with like there can be like a little bit of being too isolated that can pop up with a chart like this, and feeling like you're so independent that you don't need anyone else, that you don't need any support. So it can be hard to like open yourself up to that because like a lot of the energy in your chart is like, I don't need this, like I can handle things on my own. Um, so and like people like with charts like yours and mine, like we can like help so many people, but then like when we need help, like we might not be very good at asking for it, because we feel like we're so strong. Aquarius is like, the genius sign. I feel like there's so like how like how do I need help? Like I can figure this shit out. But like, not thinking like, okay, well there's definitely, you know, a time or many times where, you've done amazing things, I'm sure. And that's also another thing, the fact that you have this 12th house sun, you're just gonna like it can be frustrating and like just like potentials for chart like yours, it's like it can be frustrating like there is like one like someone with a chart like yours that can feel very they can feel very 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 isolated and very like different than other people, and then they can fall into a way of existing where they um I don't know, like where they almost have a sort of cynicism about the world, and almost like worrying like that they're just never going to meet um other people who, and of course I told you you have Venus in the 11th, Mars 11th, so there is that drive to make friends and to meet like-minded people, but it's not easy, right? So sometimes there can like you can't let that cynicism win, um if it shows up. I know for me it definitely it can happen, right? Where you're just like, fuck, these people are so fucking stupid, or just not even stupid, just like so brain dead that it can kind of like make you lose hope in terms of like, friends, and I don't know, just a thought. Um, yeah, yeah. Let me see. Sometimes also like Sun Square series, it can make it so like that same cynicism that can leak over into relationships and like other people having like let you down, like disappointments, and that's like one of the life lessons, like is like not allowing that to hinder your attempts at being loving and compassionate. Um, and it really is about just like finding where there is beauty, where there's peace. Um, just like not losing that sense of love and compassion. And it's very good for like, connections with women. Um, and yeah. And yeah, and then you're serious, being a third in Gemini, that just is very good for, it makes someone like, um, really like to share their thoughts, and they're good listeners. They're good. Like they like, it's like, okay, my chart I see is the part of me that like, even though like, I'm very deep and stuff, like I still like once in a while I like, not gossip, but like, I like to just talk about stuff, when I'm in that mood. You can get like a mood where you're just kind of chatty and you just like to talk about things, even if they're not like the deepest things. It could be maybe even like in the content. Um, so yeah, so yeah, it really makes one like love like reading, word, like anything that media, just loving words, loving information, loving to learn. And they can, yeah, it can make like, like a zest for meeting new people. That's a Sagitarian also. And maybe it's even through words that they show their affection. Um, and very good writing talent, very, very good writing talent. So, yeah. And I think that there's also like a level of like kind of, just honesty that you kind of like that you give and that you want anyone close to you to give. Like real authenticity and honesty. I'm gonna break this computer eventually. Like I'd done this to the computer before where it started making noises and I just like would just hit it, and then it actually helped it. This was like 10, 12 years ago. Like, God, stop falling. Camera thing. Probably take it to a shop, but I'm in fucking Romania, so I don't know where. Actually, yeah, there's tons of places, but I hope it will go away. But yeah, yeah, very good at praising other people too. What else is this? Let's pull this. Ooh, so you have Psyche rising? That's so lucky. So Psyche rising, um, it just makes you like really want to go deep into understanding of like the human psyche and psychology and just like anything that brings you beneath the surface. But then on the ascendant, that makes you like have like a forever young appearance. Like I know people who have psyche, like I've just seen it where yeah, they just stay looking young and good. I mean, it's not saying that you can just be unhealthy, but it is a very good position. You have Fortuna. That's not really one of my ones, but I know it has to do with fame and fortune. It's on your sun. So like if Haley was here, she'd probably say that that's someone who can be. And you have Fama, which is another one she looks at on your Venus. So like potential for fame, um, related to like some of these more spiritual, artistic things, pursuits. So Nessus on the descendant, that could bring like kind of like difficult energy with the opposite sex or partners. Never would guess someone's sexual orientation. But then you have a lot of internal like protection, like it could even come from your ancestors. Like with Jupiter and White Moon Selena down there, yeah, there's just like a lot of divine protection. So yeah, that is all. Let me just stare at the chart again. Yeah, that is it. Thank you so much. That was really fun. Let me know if you want to schedule a follow-up. I think you just did the reading, right? Let me check. If you want to add the follow, most people add like the follow-up and the current astrology. Let me know. I ran it a deal. I mean, usually it's like a lot more, but I'd be happy to do this sound, I swear. I'm gonna shut down my computer. Wish I can't because I love the Zoom. I would do it. I'll write it down. Usually it's like 150, probably like closer to 600 for the two. Because it's like a 3 hour live session. But I would do it for well, the deal I just posted for tonight was 3. I would do it for I would do it for 350, which is like, yeah, that's like very, very, very low for that one. And that's 1 hour. First hour we go over your chart. And then usually it's like 3 hours total. Hours 2 and 3, we go into all your current astrology, like the year ahead, year plus ahead. I go through all of the predictive techniques I know, and it's just a really good one. So I'll write down here that I offered that 350 for following the current. So yeah, let me know if you're interested in that. If not, I'd still love to know your life experience. Like if you feel like kind of writing something back, but that's usually like in the follow-up that we do that. And we kind of compare, the lived experience. I think it would be very interesting, being that we have all these same things. So anyways, thank you so much. Ciao, ciao.